down. Come on, get out of the way. There we go. Oh. Oh. No. Come on. Come on, go, go, go. Oh, another one? Come on. All right, fine, I don't have time. Go, go. Ah. Yes! Hi, my name is Carl Herzog. I'm the public historian for the USS Constitution Museum. And as you can see, I have been busy delivering powder to the guns on USS Constitution. This is one of 6 mini games that are now available on the USS Constitution Museum's website as part of a new project called A Sailor's Life for Me that makes up an entire separate section of our website. There's a link to A Sailor's Life for Me on the front page of our main website, and when you get to A Sailor's Life for Me, you'll see that you can play all 6 of these mini games individually if you don't have a lot of time, or if you want to spend a little bit more time exploring them. They're linked together in a longer game in which you can become a member of the crew, working your way up the ranks as you perform each of these tasks, and some other ones as well. In addition, A Sailor's Life for Me explores the various areas of the ship, the other tasks that sailors would have been occupied with, and introduces you to some of the other crew members and their specific roles on board. On each section of the page, you'll see imagery of locations on the ship, members of the crew, gear and equipment they were working with, tasks that they were performing, and on any and all of these pages you can click on them to learn more about whatever that image is of. For example, here is a layout of the entire ship's crew, showing the different ranks and numbers of seamen that were engaged in each rank. You can go over and see what their tasks were, how many of them tended to be on board, and explore the entire crew this way. The games are a little whimsical, and some of them are inspired by real-life activities that you could be performing in the USS Constitution Museum's galleries when we're open to the public. While these may not exactly be perfect historical depictions of what the crew are doing, these inspirational games are an entertaining way to give you a sense of what life was like for the crew and how those tasks and schedules link together. Games like this are a great educational vehicle for learning about the history that we can't access directly. Constitution and other sailing warships of the time period have appeared in a lot of games, both board games and other tabletop games, as well as video games, in ways that can help you learn more about the history of the ship and the history of this time period. Among these are strategy games that will let you refight famous sea battles on your kitchen tabletop. These began becoming popular in the 1970s when a series of manufacturers of other types of metal toy soldiers began also producing very highly detailed, historically accurate ship miniatures that could be used in these types of games. These were then accompanied by the publication of a variety of different sets of rules that would govern how those toy ships maneuvered around the table and what happened when they tried to fire at each other. Here's the first of one of the most popular of those, Don't Give Up the Ship, published in the 1970s, along with a sample of the types of miniatures used in these games. These are sold as metal and come unpainted, but in the hands of a good hobbyist or artist can turn into really quite impressive modeling works of art. This model of USS Constitution was produced by a Spanish artist who makes a living out of actually painting and assembling these and selling them for people who want to use them in games. With the scale of the pen, you can see just how tiny this is and the amount of workmanship involved. If that kind of hobby painting is a little too much for you, but you're still interested in doing this kind of strategic gaming, you can see USS Constitution and her other frigates in the War of 1812, as well as the American Revolution and Napoleonic ship battles in a series of board games that were also began being published in the 1970s. The first and one of the most popular of these was called Wooden Ships and Iron Men, and it features small cardboard counters that represent the ships engaged, maneuvering over a board that represents the ocean and is broken up with a hexagonal grid that governs movement and ranges and distance and angles of fire. Wooden Ships and Iron Men has since been updated by a couple other different but similar games that have taken more detailed approaches to how the rules of the game are played. Close Action, published in the 1990s, puts you in the captain's chair where you are micromanaging the details of every ship, including what the crew had to do and how the sails were set and who you're firing at, while the Flying Color series and Serpents of the Seas also allows you to play with Constitution and its battles, but does so from more of the Admiral's chair, where in the case of fleet battles, you are looking at governing and managing the entire squadron. Another newer series of these games is called Sails of Glory. This is their depiction of USS Constitution in a plastic cast miniature. Comes already painted, you don't have to worry about it, and has a similar set of rules but a little bit more simplified for a modern audience. But here again too, Sails of Glory will allow you to replay some of Constitution's great battles. This is a picture from one such playout against HMS Guerriere. I think in this one, Constitution did still manage to also beat Guerriere. Constitution's also shown up in a variety of video games. This is Constitution being depicted in a current game called Naval Action. Yes, Constitution's flying a British flag in this game. In this game, players can work their way up, becoming captains of individual ships and running them under any nationality. So it's not particularly historically accurate, but it's a fun and interesting game of depictions of both the sailing ships and how they sailed, as well as the actual combat. Another more recent strategy game available on the computer that depicts the sailing ships, including Constitution, underway is called Ultimate Admiral Age of Sail. This one's relatively new and is still under development, but is the latest in a series of similar games that started also in the 1990s, using the computer to provide that more strategic depiction of maneuvering sailing ships. And if the strategy behind sailing these ships is less interesting to you than the lives of the actual crew members, there are also a number of role-playing games similar to Dungeons & Dragons where you can take on a role of one of the members of the crew of these ships and follow them up in their career up the ranks to captain and even admiral. This is the earliest one of those from the 1980s, a game called Privateers and Gentlemen. The rules for it are pretty complicated by today's standards, and it's probably not one of the best games to still play now, but it's a fascinating introduction to the idea of applying those game principles to understanding what it would have been like to be on board the deck at the time. Lastly, in one of the most bizarre depictions of the ship in video games, USS Constitution was included in the video game Fallout 4 about a post-apocalyptic Boston. But in this case, Constitution, as you can see, had jet engines attached to her, and in one final voyage crosses Boston Harbor to crash into the ruins of one of Boston's skyscrapers. This is the only point that USS Constitution appears, I think, in this game, and it probably won't teach you much about sailing ships or about the rest of the time period involving Constitution, but it'd be hard not to include it in this. So there you have just a few of the games that have featured USS Constitution and similar ships, some of which you can still play, and some of which will teach you more or less what life was like on board the ships and how they maneuvered and help reenact the battles. So come to USS Constitution Museum's website, explore a sailor's life for me, see what the crew's life was like, play some of the mini games that'll help you run through those tasks, including delivering powder and operating and firing the guns, and then work your way up the ranks in some of the other games. Let us know what you think, and if you have ideas or questions about any of this, don't hesitate to post to our social media. If there's other topics that you would like to see in future videos, post there as well too. Play more games! Thanks a lot!